I'm going to illustrate how to use each of the parts of it, but first I'm going to tell you what those parts are. To begin with, my first machine was a hydraulic jack, and it's very difficult, it leaks oil, and it's very jerky to use. So I've gone to an electronic system. This is a 12-volt actuator. It's a 1,000-pound capacity, but here, where the person sits or stands, it's a 250-pound capacity. This part right here is operated by the switch. Forward for up, and back for down. And this is the thoracic prompt. This is what goes under your arms and around your back and front, and it's what will support, it's the support system for the entire body. The primary element of this thoracic prompt, the weight-bearing portion, is this piece that I call a thigh prompt. You can call it a thigh support, whatever works for you. This shape is adaptable to many, many thigh shapes. This was created to give a really good support for the whole body weight. And when you get in it, you'll see that it'll hold your weight really comfortably. It hooks in right here, and so all of that weight of the body can hang from the two hooks that are on either side. This portion is self-aligning. As soon as you pull it to the sides, underneath the arms and to the sides, it'll be centered. There's no having to mess with separate little adjustments. These are elbow pads. Everyone's elbow goes right to the same spot, and they grab somewhere along these hand grips. The gear head is underneath here, and the hardness of it is protected from the person. The person's protected from it by this very thick pad. It's very comfortable. The casters are different. They both look like brake casters, but in reality, the rear casters are directional casters. It doesn't stop the wheels from turning at all, but it keeps it tracking straight. That's important for a couple of reasons. One, you get someone in here and they don't know how to walk, they're going to swing their hips a lot, and it's going to waste a lot of sideways energy. They'll be flying down the path like that, and you don't want that. You stabilize them this way, and their motion will be directed just exactly forward. Also, if you've got someone out on a sidewalk, you want to use those because sidewalks are never level, and they're going to want to drift off into the grass or down the curb and into the road. If you engage the rear directional casters, then you can just stand up here and have someone follow you down a sidewalk, and they're not going to be drifting off to the side. Now the front casters are braking casters, and then you can apply this brake in any rotated position of the caster, and that'll keep it really firm. If you're using this while you're adjusting someone's posture, or while you're having them sit on the toilet or in one particular place, then use the brakes. Otherwise, you're not going to need that. When you're standing someone up, you're going to need it free to come forward with them as they stand. Another important portion of the Freedom Walker is this ankle prompt. It's a weighted prompt. It serves both to have an anti-scissoring function. It's weighted with stainless steel weights inside. They can serve to stretch out contractures. And this little gizmo is for shortening the cord. I'll illustrate that, but just know that you can adjust the stance, the separateness of the step, the width between the step, the feet, with this. This machine is actuated by a 12-volt pump actuator. It's got a standard Makita battery in it. You just squeeze right here to push it in or pull it out. These should remain in the charger. The charger should be placed somewhere where it can stay all the time. It comes with 2 batteries. You always have one fresh. As soon as it's charged, which only takes like an hour, you leave it in the charger, and the electrical circuit in the charger puts it in a trickle mode, and it's always trickling energy into it. And so when this starts to get, the machine starts to get slow, that's the time to change it. The first 4 or 5 times, you can run it down all the way, and it will, make it good and dead. If you have the time to pay that attention to it, it'll make the battery last longer and have a longer charge each time. In any case, these should last a good 5 or 10 years if you take good care of them. They're good batteries. They're cheap. You can get them at a local hardware store. Now that I've told you the main components, let's have some fun and learn how to use it. I have Jason and Jackie here to help us out. Jackie is the female, and let's see. Jackie is not disabled. Normal individuals can give you really, really good feedback. You're going to be telling me as we go along what feels right, what is fitting properly, and what's comfortable, what's not. And when you get in it yourself, and when you try it on each other, 2 normal individuals, you can have this really great learning experience. You need to be in it yourself to have we learn with the body.
Sure.
And so getting in it, you get an idea of when people who can't communicate, you need to be able to visualize and feel with your body what they're going through. The whole idea with this is basically twofold. First, we lift to a proper posture, a proper standing posture. And that first element, there's a lot of play with these prompts, how to push here and pull there and adjust and readjust. And mainly I built it so that people could learn to walk. Okay. You'll also find it useful for toileting,
Oh, yeah.
And
Get back it right.
transfers and so forth. I had to remove the sides because you need good access to the legs here. I designed these thigh prompts primarily because my early versions, it was just lifting up under the arms. You grab them around the waist and under the arms, and you know very well that a lot of these kids, they don't have any upper body strength at all.
Right.
And all they're just using their little joystick, control stick to move around. So people were wanting me for a long time to put straps. And I knew right away that straps were really uncomfortable, and I didn't want to do something that hurt, because pain, it's an indicator. And so I found out that there's some very serious injuries possible from cutting off the circulation down there. And in mountain climbing, it even kills some people when they stop moving and they're in that kind of harness that's got straps in the groin. It's called harness hang syndrome. I discovered that the whole weight of the human body can be supported on the surface area of the thigh. This is a very large muscle group. So when I tried it, I discovered, I hung dangling over the ground for over an hour. I'm confused here. So the way I put it on is like this. I get in front of the student. Oh, by the way, after that hour, I wasn't dead. It was very alive. I hadn't lost any circulation. And I realized that it was something I could try safely. So I made attachments to the LiftWalker to see how that worked, and a little finagling, it proved itself. Well, at first I did it with people who could have used the LiftWalker before, and I discovered that if they could walk, say, 100 feet without the thigh prompts, they could walk 1,000 feet with them. Why don't you do this one?
Sure.
You saw how I did her right leg? You just get her foot right up here on your thigh. Then the reason you need to do that is because you just have to reach under the leg. And
so the skinny part first?
Okay, let's see. Let me explain this. This strange triangle, the idea is that the hip is the rotation point for the leg, this hip socket. And so that's where we want to have this close to. Oh, in real life, we'll be adjusting it forward or backward depending on the posture, but for a starting point, there or a little bit back is where you want to adjust it. So you'll hang it over her leg like that and get it as close to her hip socket as possible. there's a little bit more pressure on the opposite side, pulling through.
So then just come through?
The idea is, yeah, you come through.
As tight as I can.
What you see you're catching here.
Whoops.
So you don't want to. The idea is to make it as snug fitting to the thigh as possible. Well, not quite that far, because see, if you go too high, then it's going to be putting pressure up there in the groin area. At least just a little bit behind her knee is fine. Just make sure that the line of it is in line with her hip socket.
Okay. Okay.
Or a little behind, a little below.
Which it appears to be.
About right there.
And really, you know, the students have pants on. The seam of their pants, their jeans, or whatever, it's going to be pretty much running right up.
So that'll help be a guide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we just, make sure it's down right there, and
get it nice and tight.
yeah, definitely. Now that's looking real good. Yeah. Very good. The process of standing with the LiftWalker sometimes before it's tightened up, it sometimes pulls it forward. Sometimes we're going to take it off after you're standing and play with your posture a little bit, but not always, sometimes. But right now it's looking really good.
Okay.
If we were just have you standing with the LiftWalker this way, you'd be really comfortable.
Okay.
And can you feel how that works?
Yeah, as you were pulling that.
Yeah,
I can.
right there.
Yeah.
See that?
That's amazing. I didn't realize just.
Fairly even pressure. Go ahead and sit down. Okay, so now that we've got that done, we'll apply the LiftWalker. And Jason, again, you've seen us do this. Go ahead and like move it over to her. And this switch, it goes pretty much the same direction as the lift arm.
Okay.
If to bring it up, you're going to pull it like just like it was an L.
Okay.
And so as you bring it to her, you're going to want to lower it. People's, when we're sitting, under our forearm is about an inch or two over our legs, depending on the body, but it's just over our legs. So you're going to want to do that with this. Just bring it to her and lower it down. That's good. Maybe a little higher. Just up a little. Okay, that's good. So we'll begin by putting your arms in. This isn't going to keep your arm restrained.
Okay.
It's just like giving you
Keep it in the cup.
cuffing it with the pad.
Okay.
This does help though if there's not an ability to.
Keep my arm.
Right,
like this.
right. You have an ability. You can grab fine, but suppose you couldn't. That's why I'm just
Right.
putting those
Okay.
on. However, as we'll show you, this isn't as necessary as it used to be, because all your weight's not going to be borne by your shoulders and arms and so forth. But it's useful when you get to the point where you want to steer the thing, and also to control your upper body posture.
Right, right.
You need a stable platform, and that's your arms grabbing a hold of something.
Right.
Some people will be lurching back and some just flopping forward, but if they have their arms secure, that's minimized. So I built this so that it's self-centering, self-aligning. See how that, when I move the right in, the left goes? Well, that's because of a gear set up here. Anyway, so now there's just a fixed position for your elbows. You grab anywhere here that you can. And when you tighten in the back, it cinches it up close to you.
It hits my hips.
It hits your hips, it does. And that's frequently with women, they'll complain that it's digging in their hips. And so I just move it up a little bit.
Okay.
Because when you're in it, it's not going to be hitting your hips probably.
Right, it's not hitting my hips, no.
Okay, so
you do the arms first, and then you do the back strap.
right. There's a lot of thick padding here and leathery, firm stuff. And on a woman, her hip bone is right here. And if it's too low, there's going to be putting pressure on it. So usually a woman will stretch out a little when she's in it. And sitting, you kind of squat down and thicken. And in any case, for comfort while it's being adjusted, we just lift it up a little bit. I just want you to put your arms up and illustrate for me how less stable it is.
With my arms up?
Yeah, just put your arms up.
This one's still.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Okay, put my arms up.
Yeah, at least here.
Okay.
See, it's really easy to flop around and get shoulders forward and stuff. And that's already too easy for someone with contractures, even when their arms are down. But it's much worse if they're not held. So we have this prompt here on her thighs, and if it's going to support her body weight or help support her body weight, it's got to be connected to the lifting mechanism. Well, where are we going to do that? It's going to be relatively in line with her center of gravity and be pulling straight up. And so that spot actually needs to pull a little back, and that's why I have it right at the back behind her elbow. And go ahead and lean forward a little bit for me. That's how you put it in, just simply like that. And it has this cover to keep it from bouncing out. Some people bounce it by the way they walk, and not very many, but enough that it's just worth it to put on all. So now we're going to play with this adjustment as we go,
Okay.
but right now I tend to cinch it up as reasonably tight as I can get it.
Okay, so when you cinch it on that side, this side is killing me because it's
Your side side.
my hip bone, something's hitting my hip bone on this side.
Okay, so there's two things that are happening. Either this is too tight, squeezing you this way, or it's too low. So we'll just play with it and see
Okay.
which one it is. Go ahead and lift it a little and see if that fixes it. That fix it, or is
Yes, with me wiggling around, it's fixed it.
it? Okay, well, I want you to let it down a little bit and let me see if, because you're way over her hip now.
Okay, now it's like,
Pick it up just a little. All right.
Yeah,
Let me,
so-
okay, now I'm going to loosen on the back.
okay, that's better.
And now that it's loose, you tell me the point when it gets too tight, okay? You can just pull it this way, but it's really easier if I'm pushing it shut here and closing it at the same time like that. So you need to tell me when it's too tight,
Okay.
and I'll loosen it a little past that.
Okay,
That's all right? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So get your elbows back.
Okay.
I've already cinched you on that side. Jason, why don't you come over here and do this one?
As long as possible. And then I'm just going to clip it right in here.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to tighten it.
Right.
How do you feel?
That's comfortable.
Now, to be even with the other side, probably ought to go
So
a little
more.
further. So let me, is that resting on your hips again? Now this is the same thing as what I was saying before. You can pull it, but if you're assisting by lifting the thing that it's pulling up, it's easier. Let me just show you. Like if you do this, see how much further
Yes.
distance you got. So lastly, as far as the torso, the thoracic prompt goes, go ahead and tighten that, Jason. And it doesn't have to be real tight, just lightly snug. So if, you can ask her or ask the assistant if there's a feeding tube, and if there is, you want to be really
Right,
careful,
right.
and
Always
because you don't want
gotta
that
watch out for that
rubbing
feeding
off,
tube.
and so.
Make sure that's away.
So, and in the same subject here, if we left it entirely off, she probably would be fine.
Okay.
So it's like the last little safety thing,
Right.
and so if it's lightly touching the top of a feeding tube, that's okay. If it's just loose on it, that's
Okay.
fine. Usually it will be below a feeding tube, and it can be snug, but it doesn't have to be tight.
Good to know. Okay, so since Jackie does not have a feeding tube,
Squeeze
I'm not
her.
gonna worry about it. I'm gonna buckle it, and now I'm gonna tighten it up just a little bit.
Right.
Okay? So as I lift her up, I'm gonna pull back a little bit.
Yeah, you're gonna, the distance that people have to go forward, say their legs are planted straight on the ground,
Right.
the distance you have to go at a minimum is the length of the femur, which is about, probably for you, 16, 17 inches. So that's, a good 1.5 feet. Almost every normal adult that I put in here just lets their legs be dead. And reality is that there's a lot of contractures usually, and stiffness, and effort. People are trying to help, they're pushing. And so, in reality, there's usually some help. And you'll feel muscle tone. And so go ahead and try a little bit.
Okay.
Say you have 5% of a normal capacity. Just push a little.
Okay.
It'll help the machine, and it'll help you. One of the things that's important about lifting her forward this way, we're also trying to teach her how to stand up.
Right.
That can help. I mean, she may learn how to walk independently. That's rare, but she might leave this machine. She'll need to know how to lean forward and push with her legs and get that balance. In any case, if she's being helping herself to be transferred by someone, that will help.
Sure.
And if she's standing with some other assistance, she'll need to do that. So
Numerous benefits.
right, it's important to. Now you lean forward like you're going to stand up.
To bring you forward.
More, 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 more. That's good. Just now, before we try walking, we want to play with posture. So now, if we need to do anything with your posture, we have a good, like base to work from. And for you, even though this connection point is a little forward of where I like it, for you it'll be okay because you have, you know what it's like to stand straight, and you're doing it really well in spite of where this should be. Pretend that this is pulling you forward, kind of just stick your bottom out, and that's a real frequent posture that you'll get because they don't have a lot of muscle structure that's really correct, and they're used to sitting all the time.
Right.
And so they're going to want to stick their bum out, and so in that case, we would, you can remove these one at a time, and you'll need to, and if you pull the knee back, there's weight bearing possible there, and we'll just take it off and redo it if necessary. And see, now if I move it back a little bit, watch how that changes her posture. And I'll do it on the other side. Is that hurting anywhere?
No.
Okay. A lot of the people you'll work with will need that. They'll need that readjustment because they're so stiff from sitting and being in that position, it's fixed. And they're going to want to put their butt way back.
Because they've never had an opportunity to stand like this before.
Right. Now that pressure point is behind that rotation point, and it's going to pull you forward.
Yeah.
If it was worse, I would use this. She is acting intentionally like a lot of the people in wheelchairs act. It's probably not all the reason, but they're sitting all the time, and it's really natural for them to stick their butt way back. And you can take steps like this, but it's not a good posture.
Right.
First, what we're doing here is working on your posture. So one of the things to compensate for that, like I did before, is to move the adjustment point back on the leg. I showed you that, but this other thing you can do is this, what I call, technically, medically speaking, a butt strap. Just thread it through the straps of the thigh prompt like that. Then join the ends and cinch it up a little bit so there's pressure on the bottom. That's doing two things. That's pulling your bottom forward and giving a prompt that she'll probably want to push against, go forward. And it's also keeping this connection point rotated toward the rear of her leg, behind her hip socket. So, did you feel that? Wasn't it pushing on you?
Was, yeah.
And so, for whatever combination of things it does, it tends to get the body straightened up. And is that painful or anything?
No,
like
that's
that?
fine.
You don't need it, and so I'm going to remove it, but
Okay.
I'm doing it for illustration. Did you see how that was done?
Yeah, and from my observation is 90% of the students that are going to be lifted into this machine from a wheelchair are going to have their butts sticking far out like that. Just
Right.
because, that's how they're used to, as you explained. And they've never been able to stand up in a machine like this before.
For the spinal patients, there seems to be what the therapists have told me is that there's, for whatever reason, they haven't explained technically, but there's a real extreme pushing back of not just the bottom, but just, like the lower back. It just goes out like this. And to reposition the pelvis, I've devised this. It just goes over this right here and hooks this Velcro so that you can adjust the place on the bottom where it's going to be pushing forward. that positions it. That Velcros right to the thigh prompts. Just going right here like that. And then hooks on the other stub of the arm prompts, and just tightens this way. Now, let's have you again, but from the lower back, just push out, like you're bending like that, but you're sticking it right.
What'd you say, like that?
Like position yourself way back like that. Okay, and see if this will do the trick for you to prompt you forward.
Because this will be how a lot of the students are looking.
Yeah, and so it's an alternate for the bottom prompt that I just put on you, but it's got a somewhat different function in the manner of tilting your pelvis back properly forward. Okay, so that's an alternate and possibly more useful for the spinal patients. This the advantage of this one is you can really zero in on what spot you want to be putting that pressure on, because it's adjusted with this Velcro strap that attaches to the thigh prompt. So you can put it higher or lower, just depending on what you need. So you, as a person who can talk, how is that feeling? How is that different from the other one I put on you?
The other one I felt was on my thighs more. I could feel it on the side of my thighs. This one, is it going across my back?
No, it's actually going like in that line between your bottom and your legs.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Yeah,
is it too low?
No, no. I mean,
Is it serving to tilt your pelvis back forward?
yeah, it feels like
properly?
it's keeping me upright.
Okay, now you're leaning back a little bit, so let me just check your posture by bringing you forward some. In real life, this portion will take a lot less time when you're used to somebody, but still, it's important to remember that getting a proper posture right when you get someone off of the chair is the thing you're looking for. If they're very, let me do this arm, if they're very tight and they start doing this with their arm, and then this shoulder will come down or forward, you don't want to play with that and fix it.
Right.
And it can, if someone's really stiff, you can sometimes have to really pull back on them and get it back there.
Right. Kind of like Ryan was just.
Right. A lot of these kids will have one side or the other just pushing hard forward or back.
Right.
A lot of strange body things they're doing. A lot of the people in wheelchairs for a long time develop contractures, and their knees are pushed together really hard, and you can't take a step that way. And also from the side you see that she's very bent. Well, from the very beginning, it was a problem to solve, because the therapists and teachers want their kids up and learning how to walk, but you can't do it if your knees are hitting. So I have these prompts for the ankles. Initially, they were just cuffs to put on the ankles and pull the legs apart, and they'll still do that. But pulling the legs apart doesn't take care of this side angle here, this contracture. And so I needed to figure out some other way, and what I eventually came up with, and you're not wearing socks so it might be more uncomfortable, I added stainless steel weights to the inside of this cuff. Stainless steel, so that if you need to wash it, it gets soiled somehow, you can do that. But for the adults and many of the middle school and some of the elementary school kids use a 4.5 pound weight on each side. 2.5 pound is available. Okay, so you'll want to show this close up. I have this clip here. If I get both ankles into this and they're still not pulling apart enough, and frankly, the thigh prompt, because it's placed hooked outside of the hip, it is placing an outward force on the legs, and that's good enough for a lot of the kids. But for stubborn cases where you need to pull the legs apart a little bit, I have this clip here on this cord. You probably want to come over on the other side, and I'll show you how it, just like that, and like so. that might not be enough. And so I'll do just a little more. See if that works. That was 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. Probably too wide, but I'm doing this for illustrative purposes. That's pulling her legs apart. And when someone first gets in the LiftWalker, amazingly, if they have that gentle traction on the ankles, you'll see them slowly stretching, and every few minutes you'll want to compensate for that stretching by lifting up. And this is an important point, that when you're using this with kids, adults, the height adjustment is infinite. And in real practice, you'll see that every minute or two you'll play with the height, because someone might be getting tired and so they can't lift as high to take a step. So you compensate, lift them up just a little bit. Or they'll go onto carpet, and now they're getting real traction, and they need to be lifted up a little bit. Or they're stretching. You know, it was really hard for them to get their legs to the ground at this position, but they stretch, and then so you can lift them up a little more. The whole thing you're trying to do is get a proper posture and make it easy for them to take their step. At first they're weak, and so you compensate. You don't need to have that wide a stance, so I'm just going to loosen this up one revolution, one winding. When a person is walking, they're going to be moving their legs forward and back. It's got to have an even pressure along that stroke of the leg, and so this linear bearing will travel forward and back to compensate. Throughout her step, she's going to be kept an even distance. Her legs will be an even distance apart. When you're done with the ankle weights, a lot of people want to just put them right here. And that works if they don't go anywhere, but usually what will happen is they'll slide back here and interrupt the function of the rear caster, and the directional control will get really screwy, and it's a waste of life and time. Just stick them up here on the diagonal supports, and they'll always be out of the way. If you don't need them, or when the machine's not in use, just stick them up there. And you don't want them, even if you're in a hurry, don't leave them dragging on the floor, because that'll wear them out faster than anything. And they're expensive. They're expensive to fix, and it just doesn't need to happen. Velcro picks up everything on the floor, so just keep them up here, and you'll be a really happy person for a long time. The outward force, just because of these thigh prompts and the weakness of the legs, will make a kind of frogging out of the legs like that, and that's really hard to make proper steps that way too. Right. So I have this prompt to pull the knees together, and you just Velcro it. It seems like it would be like walking in a super tight dress, but actually there's not that much movement at the thigh, and so the leg, go ahead and take some steps. You'll see that you're able to take quite good steps with that up there. Yeah. It feels restrained to you somewhat because you're normal, but if it's making stepping possible for someone who never steps, it's a very different matter.
Yeah,
so
for the student, it would make them feel normal. It would
right.
Be normal.
Some kids, because their legs are so
right.
Low tone, just flaccid and nothing going on, they're gonna be up here like this, sure. Like frogs, and you can't have that. So bring the legs together. You do it at whatever looks like it will work, look normal, and function for them.
All the way around.
Yeah, just Velcro it wherever you need to Velcro it. Well,
did I do it backwards?
No. You have to have the Velcro side touching the Velcro.
Okay.
Now that strap is kind of strong, so you don't want it under here pulling in a pressure spot there. So that would work, I think. Go ahead and try it. See if you can walk with that.
Could be a forward motion. Yeah.
You'll use that on a lot of people.
Yeah, sure will.
So then,
it makes your steps more deliberate so that they're not all hidden.
Well, yeah, if they're frogging out, they're going to be hitting the machine, and it's a mess. So the combination of all these prompts, the intent is to get the best posture you can, because with a good posture, your patient, client, student will have the best opportunity to take really good steps. If they're all knotted up and weird,
yeah, and it's almost like every little individual little thing is key, makes the whole thing. You know, like if we didn't have this, they wouldn't be able to take steps because their legs would be all over the place. You know,
everything is potentially key. It just depends on the body, what that particular body needs, where it's the weakest, and so forth.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of people who've been sitting years or their whole life don't just automatically have their stepping reflex in gear.
Right.
I haven't met anyone who doesn't have it except completely severed spinal patients. I mean, just everyone else, you know, if they have any feeling down there at all, there's a stepping reflex, and you might have to really dig down deep to find it. But you know what? If you have to work really hard with someone for 15 or 20 minutes, that's digging deep, and that's not very deep to have to dig to make the difference between just doing nothing and then walking. So, but I've discovered a couple of things over the years that are really useful for initiating that step, and they're pretty much variations on what you would call patterning. Just when you do that with a baby, you know, you're helping them, you're moving the legs and so forth. It's a version of that. The easiest, most normal way, and I realize that, you know, this is very physical. This is a very hands-on thing to get someone standing and walking, but, and you might want to use knee pads. I don't have bad knees yet, but when I do, I'll use knee pads. Sometimes I have to pick up each step, and why don't you get up there and guide the direction and height adjustment. Okay. And then I'll take the other foot, and if it's really tight, then I'll have to rub along the calf and tickle behind the knee and just play with it and finally get the steps to take. If they're helping you, that's fine. If they're not, you'll just have to do this a lot. You could do it over a little treadmill, but typically it's just going to be over the floor like this. Another way to pattern is to do like you do with kids, get them on your feet and play that walking thing. Right. I did this with the kids. Go ahead and lift her up, way up, so that I can drop her down on my feet.
So you can get your feet underneath.
Right. Okay, just lower her.
Move.
No, just lower her a little, so there's a little pressure, a little more. That's fine. And then just walk, and you can even do this after you have the height adjusted. You can do it just one person. Let me just show you.
Right, yeah.
Like just like this. And you can walk around. Oh, got to get you back up there. Just like that.
Sure.
And believe it or not, I mean, that seems really simple, but what you're doing with them is getting a pattern for the brain to recognize.
Developing that muscle memory.
Another way to do it, and if you got a stool that rolls really easily, this is a really good way to do it. It's a little less work. Go ahead and lift her up again and put her down. Okay, just pull them way back. Okay, that's good. Lower, lower, that's fine. A little higher. She's got a lot of weight on. Okay, just to go around like this in circles. If you have a big room, you can just go way around, but it's just another way to do it, and it's very functional, it's easy, and
it's just repetitive. I mean,
you're just giving repetitions. Yeah. That's all you want to do is give repetitions of the walking motion.
These guys have never done this before.
That's right, they haven't.
After a while, does muscle memory and movement come into play?
I don't know all the exact thing that's happening in the brain, but I just know that it's working. I first tried this with a little kid. I told you about the bird boy. This little kid, beautiful little boy, looked like a bird. Funniest little nose, big round eyes, and his teachers thought he was impossible. Just nothing would happen with this kid. They left me in a big gym alone with them. I did that. It took like 20 minutes. Set him back down, and he just starts pushing it by himself, and he starts walking around the gym. You should have seen his teachers when they poked their head in the door like. Anyway, that's one way. Another good technique for initiating steps. If nothing else is working, just take off the shoes and socks and get under here with your finger and start tickling and find what works. Most people have a spot on their foot and they'll just jump out from it.
Oh, look at her go.
And as soon as they jump really high like that, just take this step and put it down and go to the other one. And
if you do it at the same time, do you think it'd be better?
all right.
Boy, that does seem to work.
No, really, imagine
Simulated thing. So
you're just tickling. That's all you're doing, just tickling. I'm getting my left hand under here, and
look at it go.
And so she's starting the motion of what a step is.
Right.
And so she does that, and then you just move it forward, and then move the other one forward. And you know what? She's responding rather more erratically than
than most people.
disabled children do. But
Right.
she's still,
Right.
but it's still essentially the same thing. And you know what? That works really well to get people to know what that feels like. That all you just want is that jerk. And then they know what it's like to pick up their legs and move them. That's all you're after.
And it's just a reflex.
That's right. But that reflex can be initiated by their brain intentionally, and that's what you're trying to get them to do, and it works. It really works really well. And I don't know how on earth I figured that one out, but probably just desperation. This morning, we're working with your kid, Nate. And what Nate does, he can take, it's real strong in his left side. His right brain is telling that foot properly what to do, and he'll take a good step. But then this one is just all tense and stiff. He can relax it, but he can't control when he relaxes it very well. So at the beginning of the session with him, I had to pull on his ankle and push here and play with it and just work with his, just try and relax him, and then finally he would let go and take a step. At the beginning it was more assisted. After 15, 20 minutes, were you there?
Yes.
He started being able to move it by himself, but for someone who's never done it, they just have to have help getting to that place where they know what it feels like. They have some pattern to copy. And so I don't know what'll happen with him when he's able to use this regularly, but I suspect, based on all the other things I've seen, he'll
improve.
Yeah, he'll learn how to take normal steps. He'll get so that he can relax it intentionally.
Yeah.
But it's going to be work. If she had a wheelchair that was up here, so that the seat itself was hitting above the bend of her knee, I'd have to lift her up so that where her knees are going to bend, it's going to come on that spot. Or lift her up like that. Very easy to just pick the legs up like this and put them right where they need to be. Was that uncomfortable?
Nope, that was fine.
Okay.
Very good.
If you adjusted the thoracic prompt really tight behind the back because she's stretched out and got all skinny, you don't want to leave her sitting there like that very long, so just undo the back and that'll relieve any pressure that she's got on her sides or on her hips. Before you pull the machine away, you want to undo the thigh prompts. This would be a good time to put her seatbelt back on, because as you're pulling this away, then she's not going to have this support. And some kids are unstable, some adults are unstable, and they should have their seatbelts on. They like to drop out of their chair. So put the seatbelt on now, and just lift this a little bit. Now, undoing the thigh prompts, just the opposite of what we did before. I'll take her foot and place it on my thigh, and that gives a little space underneath her leg where I can work. You want to keep these off the ground because, like all Velcro, it will collect a lot of dust and lint. You're done. You did great.
Thanks.
Very nice.
Thanks so much.